There's an old saying in Twitch that Twitch chat is always right, and they predicted Rich Gang. Trouble. You are in trouble. Oh!
Trouble, you're muted.
Are you muted?
Okay, I'll say it twice for the people in the back.
Do it.
Ornn into Braum? Like, okay, I understand the situation with obviously having to have the sub in, to have Yamato in. Well, so many other tanks you can play over in the top lane stabilizer, and I think it's a little bit scary going up against Banderas as well. You know, the guy plays Camille, he plays Fiora. He's not scared to pull them out into the into the Ornn. And also Braum right there, he only had to raise his shield for one spell and one spell only, man. And that was the engage from Ornn. I'm gutted.
I see your point, but also Rich Gang stepping up. That early level, like that level 1, in my opinion, was pivotal towards the entire map, especially now with strength, like feats of strength. This is the way you pronounce it. Feats of strength. I think First Blood is so pivotal, and it was such a mess. It was a battle royale. Everybody jumped in, like, hey, let's fight level 1. We don't care.
Yeah, I mean, if we have the replay we can bring up, I'd love to see it, right? I think the key takeaways from it is not just the fact that they got the feat of strength with blood, it's also the fact that the first blood on Banderas, the Fiora that will be then later snowballing as we watch it here, Ragnar, remember, a substitute as well who had a great game I want to add, also getting a kill, so the kills goes on to the right target for Rich Gang, and they're just instantly set up for success. Yamato can enforce recall, and it felt like outside of getting one kill back, everything that could go wrong went wrong for the Ruddy sec here.
I'm just gonna say that playing the level 1 into a Braum is always gonna be a very hard fight. I feel like a lot of the teams usually stray away from fighting the Braum level 1. Had Haslin hit someone with the crash down from Rel, I feel like this could have been a whole different fight. But I felt like Rich Gang did a fantastic job. But the second they saw the Rel in, one member walked forward, the other 4 stepped backwards, and it didn't hit no one. I think it would have been a completely different level 1 from what we just saw. But again, Braum, such a powerful champion on that level 1, and they did manage to bank in not only kill on their Fiora, but also kill on their Xayah. So both of their carries were fed off the get-go.
I also want to bring the light into the way they played Rich Gang, not only because of the First Blood, but also the way they just didn't shiver. They were like, oh, I don't care, you played Worlds, I'm on NLC, I'm just gonna take you down. Times and times, countless times again, they faced these champions, they faced these players that are just known, probably they were fans of these players, and they're like, yeah, I'll take the challenge. And this is so interesting, see this talent being brought up by NLC, facing these legends, and they don't care. They just don't care. Fights and fights and fights. And we have another one. I think this is just an eye candy to relay what we saw.
Right? Hustling gets a great engage, but the carries can't participate because Banderas is 1v3ing in the backline. The guy does not shy away from a challenge, call it a 1v4 even, as Jankos joins in on the chaos as well. And Banderas doesn't go down at this point. You just knew the game was there was no way coming back from this. From Ruddy. It was done and dusted. The Ruddy sack, they were packed up in the sack and sent home for game number 1. Luckily for them, they have another game to redeem themselves here today, because this wasn't the performance they wanted to show. But for Rich Gang, shattering the expectations when they land in the NLC, I am more excited than I ever have been for this team, and I was already pretty much in the moon with these guys. I'm so excited for them.
I'm not gonna lie, I just want to see the Ruddy sack with a draft that is playable. I feel like not only was the First Blood really hard, but how in the world does this Wukong ever play the game? Into the Braum, into the Xayah, diving into the backline. Also, it just becomes really difficult, right? Your Ornn Horn will always be getting stopped. There was no way. You saw, like, Haslin got a fantastic 4-man engage onto there. There's no follow-up. Orianna cannot step up. Wukong was caught on the Braum. The Ezreal cannot step forward because he needs to poke for it and then go in. So I feel like there were so many pieces that just necessarily didn't work for Adisak. And also, I do want to see Perkz top lane. This is what they owe us. So for the next game, I'm anticipating that top lane Perkz.
Hey, when you see this Orianna, he's a top lane. He didn't play top, but when you look into these stats, they're not bad for the first game of a top laner, you know? Keep it real. That's the only thing I have. Also, with that in mind, they played with these subs at first game, but this is only one game. From now on, for the rest of the day, Yamato will be a coach. He will not be playing Ornn. from what
Leaders back. Assassins on the pool. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm very excited for that, and I do also want to give a special shout out to Ragnar, right? He's someone coming in as well to substitute here for Rich Gang. He has been in the NLC before without really showing many. I mean, he has been alright, but he's never been one to stand out. And I thought this game, I saw a Ragnar who stood out, who took the duels, who won some of them as well, and looked really confident. It was great to see him back, and I mean, wow, even if it is just one game, I'm happy to see him shine on the NLC stage.
So even if we bring like that light into Banderas, we only brought 2 replays. If we had another one, we're not gonna show it. Banderas did Banderas things. I mean, I can't let him go away without at least teasing him a bit. That dive on the mid lane with no minions, nothing. It was like, yeah, I'm versus Yamato Cannon, so I can tank a turret. I don't even know what they did on the update of the game and how turrets work nowadays. I'm gonna do it. So Banderas is still Banderas. That is good to know. You can have like good Banderas, and then you can have the other Banderas.
Yeah, I think the play.
You mean great, good, and great.
There are levels to it, right? I think the play
the
really symbolized the play symbolized all of Banderas, really, right? Because he started off by diving Hums and 1v2ing him underneath 2 turrets, died with the Artican buff, went back to base, TP'd straight back in and said, I have not had enough, went for another round and lost it tremendously, right? We saw the good and the great both times there, and forgetting that the turret ramp-up damage now lasts for 5 seconds instead of 3, going out of the turret, thinking it's back to dealing pretty much no damage. Did forget about the extended timer, and he got absolutely cut down. Yamato getting that solo bowler, and he will always have that on his record. He has now solo killed Banderas.
Again, I just want to reiterate, because I know a few people might be still wondering why in the world was Yamato playing. So he's not going to be playing anymore. That was just for one game. A couple players were suspended just for one game. Don't worry, you'll have leader in the next time that we're going to see the Roddy sack. And also, we'll also have Rich Gang on full roster further down the line.
It happens. We move on. I think we can wrap this one up with Rich Gang and Reddy. We are waiting for the interviews. As soon as we have them, we'll toss them into you. We're still waiting for the other lobby to be set up. I know, hey, Casa, start the game. It happens. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. But can we just talk about
Pedro?
Actually, yeah. I was gonna blame Jamada, but yeah, let's go for Pedro. But can I just talk? I want your opinion, okay? Trouble. I want your honest opinion about Atakan.
I think it's really cool. Okay, so I've seen more Atakans spawn than others. I think there's like a little bit of a mismatch on the percentages of which ones drop. But I love the fact that it just forces fights. We have been talking a lot about, you know, the lane swap meta and how boring the early games were last season, and then everyone playing a little bit of a more slow, calculated game, going for that late game. But I feel like Atakan gives you also a sense of comeback. You take that Atakan, you have the revive, you can force a fight, TP back in, like Duckling said, with Banderas as well, and sort of change the tides of the entire game. And also, it just adds another element of the game that the teams need to think about. You know, at minute 14, you see where it spawns, you need to change suddenly your whole macro. Who goes top lane, who goes bot lane, who pushes what wave, who has teleport. Like, the whole map could just swap over one spawn of Atakan. And not to mention that teams like in the LPL have been extending the timer on how long they keep Atakan alive to snowball it into an early Baron as well.
And keep that in mind. When you get the Atakan buff, you can die once, which is called withdraw, but you don't do it again. So you don't teleport back into the lane and feed the enemy top laner. Who am I talking about? Banderas, welcome to the interview. Let's toss to the interview.
Wait,
no, I think it's Banderas.
Oh,
hello there.
Yes.
Hey,
Hello. How you doing, Akram? Long time.
A long time no see. How are you feeling, Rich Gang? Good team. NLC completely improved. I mean, you pop. How are you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling good, man. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm wondering. So you know that you're only allowed to die once with the Atakan buff, correct? I'm just.
You know, I wanted to be the first player to be solo killed by Yamato Cannon, so you know, like, I had to take that honor, you know, one way or another, you know.
But this is enough, like a really good start for you. As Rich Gang, Gannon versus Ruddy. Everybody was saying that Ruddy is the top of the pack, and now you're leading the pack. What do you have to say for the rest of the matches and the rest of the teams on Group B?
Yeah, I mean, first shout out to Yamato for subbing in, and shout out to Ragnar for subbing in. I mean, it wasn't the team's full display of strength, you know. It kind of makes them a little bit one-dimensional, no offense, you know. Like, so it makes it really easy to prep for us. I just didn't expect the Fiora to be open if you're like planning on planning Horn and stuff like this, you know. But I think that team is going to be very scary because Jankos is really good, and I think Perks can be really good in top as well. So I was hoping to play versus him today, get some practice. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking towards later stages of the game.
Maybe on playoffs you'll get that opportunity. Tell me something, Banderas. I've been looking into teams and I enjoy making this question. If I look into Rich Gang, imagine I walk into a bar. We just serve juice in that one, by the way. And I see you and I'm like, hey, Rich Gang, who's that guy? Describe Rich Gang as an individual.
Rich Gang is like, it's like the cool uncle who is like, doesn't really care that much, but like when he's there, it's good vibes, you know. Like we bring entertainment, and you know, we're here to have fun.
Where do you think the ankle is going to be at the end of the split?
I mean, honestly, like, I mean, not to say too much, you know, but I think our team is, we have like some friends, you know, we're 4 Norwegians, and Nix, you know, we're slowly converting him to be a Norwegian, but we're basically a group of friends, you know, people who used to play pro, and, you know, we still play pro now. It's just not as full time as before, and we're looking forward to, you know, like with the power of friendship, shatter these good teams, you know, like we just did.
I love it, Banderas. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. I missed you so much. And hey, best of luck for the next game. I'll let you rest, and I'll see you soon. See you, Uncle.
Bye-bye.
I like the way they have to introduce the teams to make it complicated as well. Well, we'll wrap up this one after we have DMG versus Venom Crest. And interestingly enough, DMG betting on the talent, but their roster, it's not like betting on new talent, let's be honest. They have an amazing roster. On Venom Crest, defending title, but they bring the unknown. And this is not like Elsa into the unknown. This is like, well, they've done it before 3 times. Can they do it again?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to sing Trouble. I'm not going to sing.
They have been the surprise, right? Venom Crest for all throughout 2024 coming into the league. We didn't expect them to do much. Well, they made playoffs. Had rookie of the split in Lenny, who they found in the French scene. And then in summer, right, plucked out Theocax. They won the whole damn thing. They are the perennial underdogs, but I don't think you can coin them as that anymore because we know this strategy works, and they have plucked out more talent here that I'm excited to see. I don't know much about these guys. I don't know much about Kiki in the jungle. I'm gonna be honest, but I know that Venom Crest rate him, and if they do, I do, because they have had success with this the entirety of the past year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually want to hone in a little bit more on the drafts as well. This is going to be best of ones between the 5 teams in each group, and they're so incredibly important. Again, one draft that can be played very easily. I feel like Asing was talking to you about this yesterday in his interview, where he was like, you know what, these best of ones, you have to exactly know what your draft is about, especially when you're going into the game and executing this. And now with all the added extra feats of strength, especially with the first blood, especially with the first tower, especially with a lot of the lane swaps that are happening, we saw a couple of teams crumble under the pressure with the lane swaps, and you need to be very careful, especially when you are picking a top lane, or when things like the Casantes, things like Sion, Zac, who are incredibly strong in terms of lane swapping, and you've pulled like a rumble against them, which absolutely guts them in lane. But then if you get lane swapped on, you're actually in a very, very unfortunate position, like me addicted yesterday.
I 100% agree, and at least from DMG, we know they're capable of handling that pressure and adapting. It's also interesting. I made that question for the Vizisachi, I think it was Vizisachi yesterday, on how can you adapt towards this one, because it's only a best of 1, and sometimes, like, okay, on the best of 3, you bring that experience that you have, but on the best of 1, you have to adapt within the game. So it's really complicated to deal with this seeding stage, but it's also extremely important because you then are thrown into playoffs, best of 3 through the rest of the split. I think the split starts as soon as you get the seeding on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the teams will bring here, right? In the best of 1, anything can happen, especially as those bans don't count, and they really have, you know, everything to pick from, right? For DMG, you mentioned a bit about the fact that they are about talent development, but not only that, right? I talk with a lot of DMG. I'm a big DMG enjoyer, and what they're trying to do here is, right, is they are combining the talent, but also making sure it's a stable environment where they can grow, right? They've gotten one of your favorite support in the league, probably Kormsky, right? A veteran, a Portuguese veteran, right? Get him in there, Fatesky as well, who's been in the NLC back in 2022, to make this stable environment. So someone like Bisco isn't coming in with 5 other rookies, or 4 other rookies who doesn't know what's going on, but he comes in to a settled environment where he can focus on developing his game and getting ready for the biggest opportunity of his life now, playing in the NLC with DMG, right? So I like that idea of focusing on a few specific rookies and making sure the environment around them is there so they can grow.
Also, a huge reminder right here that the NLC has stepped up. The people that are playing it right now, the orgs, the histories, the experience behind players. We've got Worlds winners, we've got Worlds finalists, we've got MSI winners. And even if your teams from last year were good enough to win, now they need to step it up 10x to be able to face off against. And right here, DMG versus Venom Crest are gonna have to step it up. Remember how we said yesterday, some games are must win for teams, and I feel like for these ones that are playing against each other right now, this game is a must win. You never want to be on 0 at the very end of the day, especially when the 5th place will not be moving forward to playoffs.
Well, it's time to get into that champion select. The Kalista is gone, the Corki as well. Will Varus meet his fate as well? Skarner so far 100%. Nobody likes the Scorpion. In Jace from Arcane also being removed. But I think Victor is the one getting all the highlights.
Yeah, and
There you go.
Out to the bench. I mean, I'm looking for the Cassante as well, right? Elijah and Bucci, players we know very well in the NLC from last year. The rookie of the split and the All-Pro top lane of the split going up against each other here from 2024 summer. Both of them very happy about this Cassante. And I'm genuinely wondering if Venomcrest doesn't ban it here, it could be a realistic first pick. It's so safe, you know, Bucci's brilliant on it. And I mean, it opens up for all the crazy stuff later on, right? And you don't have the last pick either way. So let's see. Yeah, the Cassante instantly hovered, locked in. I mean, was there really any doubt about it as Bucci gang is back in the top lane?
Now, here's what I wonder right here. Do you ever reply with something like a Rumble and possibly open up yourself for a potential lane swap into the Rumble as well? Oh my god.
No way.
I just really hope that Venomcrest do have their eggs in the right basket when they go into this matchup, because this Rumble is going to be extremely volatile. I feel like DMG are thinking, ding, 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 this is a lane swap scenario. God of lane swaps. Cassante never getting dived. Even if you do, he'll take one with them. Rumble cannot do the exact same thing, so I really hope that, especially when it comes to level 1, you've got really strong level 1 champions like Ashe, like Braum, that you can actually cover your lanes, and you can cover with deep wards to see if that lane swap is actually happening from DMG.
Yeah, let's see now with the Varus being picked up, it wouldn't be a surprise to see something like the Ashe or maybe the Israel if you want to match on the range, right? These utility AD carries really finding their place in the meta. Especially the Varus and the Ashe, as she has also had a new build, but instead jungle could be the priority here for the second All-Pro jungle in 2024 summer pizza. The Jarvan is the hover, but I think an AD carry is pretty much a must here in your rotation, right? Otherwise the pool will get trimmed out, and they do luckily agree with me, DMG, going for the Israel I mentioned as well.
I thought you can go for the jungler, but yeah, tell me.
I think a jungler right here wouldn't be bad. Something like the Wukong has been very prominent, especially over in the LPL as well. Yesterday we did see that whenever you've got immobile AD carries, Jarvan comes out. I think Los Chatones played Jarvan as well in their first game with Velia piloting that. And now you need more mobile mid lane, if you will, to try and actually dissuade the Jarvan from coming over to the mid lane. And you only have the Varus that's sort of a sitting duck. Now the problem here is, I say that when Jarvan jumps in, he sort of traps people in his ult, but when you have things like Rumble and Varus, are you trapping them or are you trapped in there with them? Because that can get very heated very quickly.
So might as well focus on champions that can get out of it as well. You have the Ezreal, you kinda are safe from that Cataclysm and the Molten Pool, let's call it this way. With the Viego as well, ways to get the resets. I don't think it's easy to get a reset on Jarvan or Cassante. Those are kind of beefy, and Ezreal can keep a distance. But let's see how they pilot this one as they wait for the second phase. There you go.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the mid lane pool trimmed out here, right? Both of these rookies about to make their debut in the NLC. If you can notch them off some of that comfort champions here and make them a bit nervous in that first game, could definitely be the edge. Lofty, someone I've heard great things about, even though he is a Swede, sad to say. I asked my Swedish friend and cast a sleeper. I was informed that he was guard tier in the Swedish league, winning it with Bloodline in the summer, and coming through the Invulnerables Academy in the NLC 3rd Division or 2nd Division, as his Syndra does get banned out. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised to just see full-on focus here on the mid lane, and yeah, with top laners already locked in, I'm expecting Venomcrest to get that counter pick in the mid lane matchup.
I wonder if they care about Orianna right here. Tail as old as time, Orianna and Java, the perfect wombo combo. He has literally the exact same range, almost a Shockwave together with the Cataclysm. And you do have 2 sitting ducks of carries on the side of Venomcrest. And something else to keep in mind right here is that Venomcrest are heading towards a very BLG-esque composition, which is 4 carries and 1 support that does it all for you. And unless that mid laner is beefy, and Galio has been taking out the pool, so other beefy mid laners don't really come to mind very easily right now. So I'm assuming that Venomcrest are going to play 4 squishes and 1 engage support. So Lower is going to have so much weight on his shoulders to carry this one out.
There you go. There's the engage. That's the rel. You can bring other things to pet it up, but I believe rel is the key, especially to keep people magnetized around you. So equalize it is even more interesting. But what do you reply on DMG?
I mean, you could obviously, right, there are a lot of pretty much support pool is untouched. You could go for the Alistar, you could go for the Braum. There are so many things to choose. Komsky, we know a big Leona player. We saw that just last bit when he was on Verdant, right? So many options here as the engage support. Komsky will likely respond with the same to follow up on that angle. I'm more excited for the mid lane. The Leona does come through, as I mentioned, for Komsky. I'm more excited to see what Bisco will pull out here, right? 4 mid laners banned just in the last 4 bans there, and more when you look deeper into it. So I'm unsure what he will go for here with his comfort taken away, and he needs another carry in this lineup, I want to say, because they are lacking a bit of damage. And it's their way. Okay. Bisco getting the way.
I woke up and it's early 2024 again. Get me out.
Yes.
Get me out.
So, likely to be a full lane mage matchup here in the mid lane as Denmark versus Sweden go head to head with their promising rookies, it seems, with Lofty and Bisco. I think Lofty, from what I've heard, could also play different things, but no, goes for the Orianna instead. Adds more just to the pick composition, you could say. I think that they have the potential of getting on Venomcrest. I think they have a hard to execute combat, to be honest, with a lack of frontline, but it could happen. It could happen. I'm really excited to see them show off their new toys here with these young rookies.
Venomcrest, cover your jungle, get in, get deep wards, because if you get lane swapped here, this is going to get south real quickly. Jarvan thrives in the early game. Viego, if he gets invaded, he falls behind. He kind of wants to be able to get those research early on in the fights, but you have 4 squishy carries and 1 engaged. Lori, so much on his back. I want to see if Venomcrest are going to fall into the same trap that Bulldog Esports did yesterday, and how they can handle a potential lane swap coming in from DMG.
Extremely squishy with a lot of damage. The other one is all rounded with Xanta that can do it all. So the question arises, DMG or Venomcrest defending title, or DMG with Bucci on the top lane? We know he's like Banderas, he can bring it all, but also he can throw it all. So do let me know, Duckling, where do you stand right now?
I mean, you know me, right, Asher? I'm always someone who advocates for DMG, and I haven't
it.
said this to anyone,
happening.
but I've had this on the whole day, man. It is DMG through and through, man. I can't give up. I believe it. Bisco is the greatest player on earth. You know what's gonna happen. 2 Danes in your lineup, of course you can't lose, buddy. It's DMG all over. Come on now.
Impossible. I don't know. He only misses the yellow hair. That's all he's missing. Trouble.
All right, so I'm gonna go with DMG here as well. I think their draft is a little bit easier to execute, more well-rounded, a little bit easy, front to back, mage, AD carry, triple engage. I think it's just easier to execute, but if Venomcrest do manage to execute a 4 carry composition, I'll be very, very pleasantly surprised. Again, this is something BLG brought out a lot in the LPL early last year, and they were some of the best to do it in the industry.
I love it. So it's time to toss it to the caster, but before that, you know, Duckling, you know me. So with that, not toss it to the caster.
Okay,
I'm not doing that. What do you mean?
Honestly, the only difference between now and 2022, like, it's hair, right? Gold hair, missing the gold hair, self-defecating humor, right? For Duckling, that's it. And he's almost there on the criteria. It really does feel like we have Gulborg 2.0 at times with him on the desk. Hello, welcome back. We're here. I'm doing Middlecourt's part of the job now, I suppose.
Yeah.
Very interesting draft. Middlecourt analysis.
Oh no, this is difficult, Jamada. I don't like this.
No, I mean, look. You got something? You got something?
Yeah, I reckon. I mean, like, you gave play-by-play a sort of a good shake last game, so I feel like I'm sort of obliged to this. Right. What I'm seeing, okay, is Jarvan Leona.
Yep.
Go and attack someone.
Yeah.
they're all locked down in Jarvan's little house
the little
builds.
Ring. Yeah,
His
yes. The mud ring. Yes. Yeah.
To Summoner's Rift.
I like this analysis. It's to the point.
Cuts to the core.
Yeah.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
All right, League of Legends, everybody.
Yes.
You're on the Rift, and we might just maybe we're treated to a game that isn't a lane swap. This could be some groundbreaking stuff. We might actually get to see a lane phase played out. Though Lori and Malky's positioning is giving me the shivers.
Oh, no.
It's giving me the shivers, middle court.
No.
That oh no.
No.
Fateski, Calm Sky. No.
Bucci's going on a holiday to Australia right now.
Well, it's another lane swap. We're all pretty used to those now. If you've been watching Pro Play for the last couple of months, of course. And, it seems like DMG very happy to take the lane swap, right? You've got Cassante on the bottom side. Even if Kiki does, path down here and there's some kind of HP threat on Bucci, he's so difficult to dive because of the Pathmaker, right? It almost feels like you do have to play out these CC chains pretty much pitch perfect. Otherwise, you're just running the risk of trading 1-for-1. Elijah's going to be forced to flash here, and that's a pretty big deal because whilst we're talking about the survivability of a Cassante in, these 2v1 dives and situations, Rumble, not the same level of survivability at all. So we'll see how he's going to handle that once Bitzer gets up there. So Bucci just utilizing the minion changes, standing pretty far away, but still getting in range of that XP.
What are we talking about? Scrap Shield is absolutely a adequate replacement for the entirety of Cassante.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you're a flashless Rumble and Leona walks up to you with her Q procced and Jarvan's behind. The Ignite, it just looks great. Seems like for now, Lori's going to come over and get some cover going, though, so shouldn't be too in danger once his support shows up. But still, this is going to put the Rumble relatively far behind in terms of where he would normally be if he gets the solo lane and gets to bully out a Cassante in the early stages.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the benefit right here for Venomcrest is you do have a top laner as your ADC.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Doesn't feel too bad. Lori going to interrupt 2 bases here. Big value.
So what is the goal of DMG's resets here? What are they trying to do? Are they going back up top, or are they going to try and reset the positioning of these lanes?
It seems like they're going to reset the positioning of the lanes. Not too much damage has really been done to either solo lane here, though as Bucci steps up on Malky, remember he's got TP. As long as he doesn't eat a Q. Oh, biscuits are broken, man. Biscuits are so broken. He's going to get Malky's flash, so it's a flashless AD now against Leona Ezreal, and Jarvan's going to do Skull and walk straight to bot. And that could be a little bit problematic. So the rotation works out in the end through good play from Bucci. Just kind of, I'm not going to say forcing out flash. Malky does have free will.
Well, that's a big question. That's a big thing to state. Do any of us have free will, Jamada?
Yeah.
And we all go in. We go into these lanes: 1 top, 1 jungle, 1 mid, 2 bot.
Not anymore.
Who says we? Well, I suppose
not in 2025. It's not my League of Legends.
The existence of lane swaps proves that free will exists.
This is
and
true.
I don't like it.
This is true. Well, we'll see if Malky's punished. Is the end point here? As he's down here. He's cleared out his Krugs and he's got not a lot to do. There's control ward, so it's a bit dangerous for Venomcrest here. It is pretty much just fog of war on the entirety of the bot side. All it's going to take is a flash forward from Kalmsky, and Lori might actually just end up being the victim. No, they still want Varus.
Yeah, Bitzer is going to be able to close the distance, but Kalmsky a little bit too far back to get on top of the Varus. So it's flash burn from Bitzer. They get a decent chunk onto the Varus, but not too much more than that.
Not much more for now. They're still kind of pushing back Venomcrest, but it's a good advantage to have. This does feel a little bit bad though. You know, you've got that window where Varus doesn't have flash. Still doesn't have flash, right? But When you're the Jarvan with the flash, you always want to try and capitalize with a strong one of your own. Doesn't quite find that same level of impact. As now that we return to lanes, it's priority for the Varus, as you would kind of expect, and they're going to look to try and turn this into an early dragon. Both mid laners are resetting, and they should have a pretty good idea that Jarvan's going to be pathing back to top side for his camps. So, clean take. Not really much else to say. DMG, there's not going to be an answer on the other side either. So good stuff from Venomcrest.
I'm looking forward to what is going to occur in top lane once Elijah and Bucci both hit level 6, because Bucci did kind of make his name last year as this top laner that came out of nowhere and was a little bit better than potentially he should have been. And Elijah dropped in summer and did pretty much the exact same thing. So seeing these two go toe-to-toe, it might not be the matchup that all of the new viewers to the NLC are most hyped for, but if you've been with us for a little bit longer, this is definitely one to watch out for. We are going to see the trade on these early objectives. That first dragon going in favor of Venomcrest. Spitzer cleaning up these Void Grubs, and it doesn't look like he's going to be interrupted in that endeavor.
No, so one objective apiece. Still no first blood to either side, but Feats of Strength race is a go. Can't wait for them to change the first blood one. I can't remember if in the most recent patch notes post from Froxen, whether or not they mentioned they were going to. I know they're definitely looking at it. But for now, that aside, 1-1 apiece. Venomcrest, they're getting a little invade on. If you take a look at the minimap, Bits is not necessarily doing the same thing for now, and there's Vision covering his path if he decides to. So it will, at the very worst, be a trade that they're very much knowing about. And maybe a dive on the bottom side, because again, they know that Jarvan's up here. It's not a big secret. It's a small window for that to potentially go on.
It does look like Kiki is just going to be taking a reset, so he doesn't love his bot lane that much that he's willing to die for them. But fairly tempered early game. And by tempered, I mean that not much has happened. Not too much fighting. And Jamada, that's always going to beg the question, who is actually benefiting from this early game? Doesn't look like Lofty is. He has to burn the flash to get out of that gank in the mid side.
Yeah, and playing against Jarvan with no flash, even with, it's hard to call it new, but of course the wider mid lane, still sucks. So maybe there will be a repeat gank there. Hopefully if you're DMG, try and set up on Lofty and just turn that into something like a potential dragon setup on next Grubs. They both spawn at around the same time, so I wonder how much of a trade DMG are maybe willing to take in that regard, already having the first 3.
It does set you up in a pretty funky situation, because if you end up trading for the objective that you didn't get early on, it sort of neutralizes the game state, but I have to hold that as Laurie is looking for Calm Sky, who's able to retreat through his own jungle. But if we do see Venomcrest get that second dragon and DMG pick up the next 3 Grubs, then we've got very sort of clearly defined points of strength for both these teams. Venomcrest with that dragon stack, and then DMG with the ability to take those towers a lot quicker.
Yeah, it seems to be. We'll track again whether or not that will be the trade that ends up happening. For now, Ski, Arcane Shift, and I mean, to be fair, neutralization in game state generally shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think for either of these teams, I think they'll both be kind of happy with it, because both of them spike around the same time, though. As we say this, Fateski's forced to use both summoner spells.
That's not great for an Ezreal, who quietly has built up a significant CS advantage in this bottom side. But now, without either of those summoner spells, still going to be a very slippery customer on the Ezreal. But one piece of CC lands, you don't Arcane Shift out in time, there's a boatload of damage on Venom Crest that can take you down.
Yeah, there is, right? And that's always going to be the question in the mid-game, whether or not Laurie can get into positions to, you know, set up a lot of the follow-up. The ultimate to drag people into the Equalizer, then the Shockwave to just keep them on top of it longer, but of course the burst damage. It's a lot of scary tools to be holding at the same time, and I'm sure DMG are very, very aware. And they've got tools of their own, don't forget. Of course, got a Rumble Equalizer on a barn press, technically, through the Hui on like a 3 or 4 second cooldown.
Yeah,
Not too shabby.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's very fun.
But then I suppose you could always sort of throw that ball right back and go, well, in terms of the engaged Venomcrest, they're really just looking at Laurie to provide that for them. But if he's able to find kills, if he's able to find resets for Kiki, then that could change the complexion of a team fight. First blood picked up 10 minutes in. Going in favor of Venomcrest, I believe, but DMG with a response off our screen in the mid lane.
Yeah, but again, first blood is going over to Venomcrest, and they're getting these grubs, so one objective away or a first tower up for those feats of strength. Just a nice little potential bonus later on down the line, of course. It's on this dragon, so seeing that trade, Laurie.
Yeah, caught out in the midsection. Not too much damage left here for DMG, but one more hit from Bizgard is going to be able to pick up the Leona. Lofty might fancy himself here up against Calmsky. Has just got that Archangels completed in inventory. But he opts not to chase any further towards DMG as the support is able to get away. And a bit of action across the map here. Fakeski is getting dived in the top side, going forward, trying to take down Malky, but will fall to Kiki, who isn't able to survive. Getting a kill in the 2v1 dive, a shutdown to boots.
Oh, it's so sloppy from the top side, from the AD.
Oh,
and
hold on. We are not done, Jamada. Bucci going all out onto Elijah, but Laurie is here to back up his boy, dropping the Magnet Storm onto Bucci, who's trying to turn this around in a 1v2 of his own. Doesn't look like it's going to be happening, but here comes the TP. Bizgard immediately has to leave the area as 3 members of Venom Crest aren't able to finish off the Cassante. Just over 90 seconds ago, no kills in this game, 5 in just under 2 minutes.
It's so messy from both sides, but in the end, at the very least on the bottom side exchange, no one dies. Just a bunch of flashes being used. As Bizgard's teleport was a little bit bold, to say the least. But take a look at this top side replay. As Chains Corruption come through, but Malky never drops tower aggro, right? He's tanking it for Kiki. And Fateski does force out that flash, which is great, but then Kiki doesn't wait an ample amount of time for the tower damage to ramp back down. It's one of those changes coming from last season to this. The tower takes significantly longer to see that ramp down damage actually ramp up damage ramp down. So unfortunately, it just takes 2 tower shots to kill him from around 800 HP. Of course, it also deals significantly more damage when ramped as well.
Yeah.
Part of the changes to try and make dives a little bit more difficult, and you saw that play out there.
It would have been absolutely crazy if he could have just sort of possessed Fateski at the end and dropped tower aggro completely.
Yeah.
That would have been really unreasonable. I'm glad that Viego can't do that. I'm glad that he's never been able to do that, in my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That was Lofty Shockwave. That was what that was.
Oh,
that yeah, that wasn't his W.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright then.
Okay.
That's cool.
We've entered the silly zone, Jamada. Everything's starting to get a little bit silly. As that mid lane tower taking a serious beating here from Venomcrest, nearly down to 50% HP. The turret plates are going to be dropping off shortly, so no bonus gold to be gained from those structures. And still, despite all of that chaos, despite the objectives that were traded a few minutes ago, very, very even game.
Very even game. It's about where the gold actually lies. It's Lofty. Yeah,
Lofty's dead. Lofty's dead. Calmsky just going to make sure Bizgard picking up the kill, and talking about that gold distribution, that's even more on the DMG mid. No.
Yeah, right. You're saying even game. It's an awkward one, right? I think this is a game state which is right now it's favoring DMG just because so much more gold is being front loaded into this play, who almost no doubt is going to be the main, mid game condition before Ezreal comes online. And around 2 items. So with this way's items being accelerated and just generally cheaper, DMG are going to be very, very happy to start taking mid-game skirmishes very, very soon. Of course, Herald spawns later than 40 minutes, 16 now, new season, as Ezreal does fly wide. Won't quite clip on to Malky, who is a little bit chunked. Does have the Blade Luring King for the lifesteal though, so he's going to feel alright about that.
I just want to say, Jamada, whilst we were mocking my analysis on the outset of this game a little bit, Jarvan, Leona going in, pressing their button, Sway dropping all the damage. It seems like that's going to be a fairly reliable game plan for DMG.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we spoke about ease of execution as this looks like a pretty easy fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see it, Jamada. Take it away.
Oh, all right, sure, no problem. This Calm Sky is going to drop here to Malky. I actually got the mic right as the fight ended, so as it were, unfortunately, it just ends up being a 2-for-1. I say unfortunately, if you are a DMG fan, lose out on Bitter and Calm Sky. They were the ones that engaged on that, looking for the 2v2, but quick collapse comes through from Venom Crest, and now that's snowballing into a topside play.
Yeah, DMG gonna back away though. Hope not to overextend. Spend too much time there. Mid lane tower does go down in favor of Venom Crest, so that is a little bit more gold into Malky. And whilst it was kind of all on Kiki, this Varus is starting to get a little bit stronger. Very impressive stuff from this ADC, especially considering that he was at a little bit of a deficit during the laning phase.
Yeah, I do worry about how Malky's going to operate on this on-hit build though later on into the game. I think it's very difficult to right-click a lot of the time here into the carries at the very least, right? The ranged carries that are Faceky and Bizguard. Naturally, Bitse, Bucci, they're going to be diving in. But, you know, if you're close enough to right-click them, they're kind of close enough to maybe press their buttons on you, so...
I love auto-attacking Jarvan.
You know, it can be very powerful, right, this on-hit Varus, when you're afforded the space, when you're afforded the time to actually get that DPS in, but it is a significantly higher risk-reward setup, especially with so much dive available to DMG. Speaking of dive...
Oh, Laurie overstepping and punished appropriately. Double Cataclysm there from Bitse, forcing flashes away, but he's going to be burning to death at the hands of Elijah. Bucci running into the fight, a reset there for Kiki, but he's going to be stunned as soon as he comes out of it, and Bucci is going to try and tear him apart, diving into the team fight, but it's another reset for the Viego, and now they're chasing Bucci down. There's no safety, no tower there, and Venom Crest with a massive team fight in the mid-game.
Again, it's just scrappy, isn't it, from both sides? They just want to take the fight. The Herald's already gone, mind you, right? There's no objective to play for on that top side of the map. They just find each other on the rotation. Again, when we just kind of take a zoom out, look where the kills land. More kills into Bizguard's pocket, right? A couple more kills into Malky's, I think, or at the very least into the top side for Elijah. As when you get that space, you saw how quickly those couple of autos really blew through Bits' health bar. Kiki, as he takes this form, he isn't really able to use that EQ combo onto the backline to cause more disruption. He has to go backwards. It doesn't quite not work out for him. He does manage to get the Leona form in the end. But again, the way that this fight ends up splitting up means that, unfortunately, if you're a DMG fan, Bucci and Co kind of separated from where they'd probably want to be. Venom Crest looking like they were looking for an angle, as this fight has kind of randomly blown out this gold, right? It's actually a 3,500, almost 4,000, more than 4,000 now. Gold deficit that DMG see themselves in. So despite what felt like a pretty good game state a few moments ago, with Bizguard being very accelerated to a second item, total gold starting to lean in favor very aggressively as Venom Crest might lose their support.
Yeah, I think Laurie is just dead here, unfortunately. Pops the Magnet Storm, but still going to end up going down. Doesn't change the game all that much. The kill score is even, but like you mentioned, the goal score definitely favouring Venom Crest. Objectives swinging towards them as well, as this Herald might be able to even things up a little bit, but that's still a pretty substantial deficit that DMG are going to have to overcome.
Yeah, certainly so. If they can get this to crash into the tier 2, it feels really nice for maybe later on in the game. Unsure if they're going to be afforded that luxury though. Venom Crest come up to answer. And actually, it's also Elijah here in the side. I don't know if they've got the movement speed to fully catch up. But Faceky doesn't have E. They see him over the wards, but they just about decide to call the race. Won't catch the Ezreal here for the time being. But returning to that gold lead point, right? It's a relatively impactful 4k gold lead or 3.5k gold lead, because look at the items. Kiki's got 2 over to Bitsa. He's only got that Summoned Sky, a couple of components. Maybe he's got a fair bit of gold to spend, but with those kind of components, unless it's a Death Star second, it's going going to be finishing that one up anytime soon. And of course, the AD, Guinsu's Blade Luring King against that tier, Fields in the Triforce. Big difference in item completions right now as Atakan started up on this top side, positioning, I'm not going to say suspect from DMG. They can engage her on the bottom side of the pit, but it's looking a little bit risky, especially if the buff itself goes down and they get the GA.
Yeah, Bucci's teleport is coming up in a couple of moments if a fight were to occur. Kiki potentially looking for something. Venomcrest taking it slow and steady for the time being. Equalizer going to be dropped down, slowing, not really locking down too many people on DMG as Karmsky is going to go down, and Bitsy goes right back into the fray. I don't think that was a smart idea, buddy. Lori still going forward on minuscule amounts of HP because he's still got that revive. He's going to head back to base as Kiki finds himself fighting up against Fatesky. A load of damage onto the Ezreal, just about gets the kill before he gets sent back to base. Another 3 kills in favor of Venomcrest. DMG drops some health bars, but they don't get any kills for it.
Exactly right. Part of the Atakan, but they've got to nerf this heavily, man. They've got to nerf it heavily. Not sure how, but they've got to find a way. I can see the Atakan revive just being removed entirely.
Yeah.
Very soon. Well, how soon, I'm not sure. I shouldn't say very, but in the long run, eventually, I can see it happening as it's an initial engage from Lori, who doesn't necessarily lock people in place for too long, but it's about the next part where eventually they find their way onto Komsky, and then it's kind of a weird re-engage from Bitsa. It's not sure what the end goal really was. Lock him up the Cataclysm, then drag back out, but there's already mobility available. You get out of that Cataclysm. So now, with a few members still holding that Atakan buff, just going to use it to clear out this tier 2 on the bottom side because they know Elijah and Malky, their lives can be forfeit.
Yep.
won't be the worst thing in the world as that Atakan buff still up for another minute or so. They pick up more gold to extend this gold lead even further. Make DMG feel just that little bit worse inside of this game as they'll also pick up their 3rd Dragon, so these objectives just stacking up. That's always going to be something you kind of get a feel for in this new season, with all the objectives spawned so frequently.
Lofty getting played onto by Bucci there, but DMG top laner deciding against doing anything too hasty. And Venomcrest, I don't want to call it early, because DMG, we are looking at this as potentially one of the weaker teams in the league, but they do have a penchant for just randomly being good with a roster with players that no one's ever heard of. And I tell you what, this French bloke that they've pulled up into their team, Kiki, seems to be doing exactly what the previous 3 French blokes have been doing for them in the jungle and just being quite good.
Yeah. Must say, the French do have a pretty good knack for being alright at League of Legends. The Hero system, of course. Producing a fair bit of talent in recent years. Felt like that throne was held by the Polish for a long time. Out from the Ultra Liga. Rest in peace, of course, but now that throne feels relatively firmly held by the LFL and France in the region.
Très bien.
It's about as much French as I know as well.
I think the only complete sentence that I can form in French is "Le vache est dans la piscine," which
and that translation would be
the cow is in the swimming pool. I think only really applicable if I see an Alistair walking around in the river, but even then, maybe not the thing that we should be dropping down. Venomcrest, though, going to be looking to drop down these towers. Not really much defense coming out from DMG as they are coming out of their base, but a little bit too late to prevent the mid lane turret from dropping. Venomcrest not opting to play onto the inhibitor.
Yeah. I'm going to say if they can even get to Lofty. I'm not sure what good that would do them. I feel like Venomcrest would have just rotated up towards... I was going to say the Baron. It's still very weird. 25 minutes in Baron's not on the map yet. That will take some time to get used to. But at the very least, I mean, they could have maybe hit on this tier 2 together, right, with a wave. Cross map certainly would have been there. So DMG, you can kind of see the hole they're in right now is not one that's going to be easy to climb out of. They've got wave clear though for the time being, right? Before that Baron goes down. Between Ezreal, between Hui, they can clear waves from range. But once this Baron is in play, and it is now. It's going to be very, very hard. Yo, Malky, you...
Someone please, just like hit it.
Okay.
There is a level of arrogance to the way in which Venomcrest are attempting to deal with that Scuttle Crab, and...
Well, now Laurie's gonna...
Yeah! I don't think he was really too involved in that whole sort of thing, but he's just going to be dropping down. Goodbye.
It just feels symptomatic, though, doesn't it? Of what we saw. Because, you know, if that Scuttle dies, then they see, oh, DMG are walking... Ah, I can walk this way, right? And... This bit.
Oh, how are we feeling? How are we feeling, Jamada?
This is a bad vibe. This is a bad vibe Baron. Bad vibe Baron start from DMG. Elijah's got ultimate. He can use it to put down some poke if he wants to.
He's going to do that. They are just going to engage straight on top of the Rumble though and able to shut him down. Big shockwave. 3 people locked down. As Venomcrest, despite the numbers disadvantage, put up a decent showing in that fight. 4v5, stop the Baron and get a kill.
3-man shockwave was huge there. Surprised Venomcrest couldn't capitalize further, even at the numbers disadvantages. Bucci, he's got all out, but this feels bold.
He's decided that he's going to try and kill some people, but he's not going to be successful. Lofty, a spree for himself. Fakesky just going to be slow. There flashes over the wall. The piercing arrow, not quite enough to take him down, but with Bucci dropping off as Summoner's Rift, Venomcrest are heading towards the Baron as DMG's attempt didn't turn out too well for them.
Yeah, let's take a look at the shockwave, right? I think it's Calm Sky that locks down Elijah, and then the CC is great. But then it's all about this 3-man shockwave on the front line. But, I mean, still so much damage. It gives Malky the space to step forward. And I think it's just there's an initial bit of CC that stops Kiki from EQing once he has Bitsay's Jarvan form. And then he's, of course, rooted up after the fact as well. So, very unfortunate. I think that was by Bizguard's W. Bizguard's E, rather. There's another shockwave.
Yeah, just going to catch out Calm Sky, who's going to dive back into the fight, but he's not got enough HP to play with. Elijah just burning the backliners to death. Shuts them down, punches them in the heights. And there is too much damage for DMG. Venomcrest come out swinging in this team fight and don't lose a single person as they secure the clean ace.
It's a clean ace. Don't have Baron, but with everyone dead, everyone important for the next 20+ seconds, they should just end the game. Calm Sky's going to be up, but you really can't clear the wave. Laurie's going to tank up the turrets as well. Remember, they actually deal a lot more damage, but that should just be game. Venomcrest.
Easy.
Very, very easy. A little bit sloppy in the early game, but once the skirmishes started rolling, they kept on rolling. DMG couldn't keep up.
The Summer Split champions start the Spring Split as they mean to go on. A sub-30-minute win for Venomcrest. Definitely a few hairy moments like you were talking about, Jamada, but as soon as we started fighting, one team is just that little bit better.
Yeah, right, and it was Venomcrest in this case. Spoke about all the tools on both sides, right? The Jarvan and the mini the mini equalizer through Bizguard and the Hui, but you know the real thing kind of wins out. And when you see shockwaves like that come through back to back, they're game overing, and in this case they're game winning for the side of Venomcrest, and starting off their 2025 campaign with a win. It's got to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for DMG though, I think definitely good bits they can take from this game. Right, put up a fight. We're willing to go toe to toe with them, but I think when we got into those team fights, did just look a little bit disconnected. We saw Leona's diving in a little bit too tempestuously, and when you've got a Viego on the enemy team, that's just reset city. You can just keep it rolling, keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult sort of game state to be in. Viego is one of the few competitive junglers that, you know, as a pseudo carry, it's something, you know, it's weird really to face Viego, but we had that conversation about skirmishes and full-blown team fighters. He is one of the more oppressive ones, right? If you're in the lead and you're always getting first kill, it means when you're in the lead, it means you're normally getting first kill, which means you're normally getting the reset, and it's just those extra rotations to spells, man. We've seen it now for the last couple of years, how powerful they can be.
Absolutely. Venomcrest getting started. Does it mean to go on? DMG going to lick their wounds when they play it later this evening. We're going to be jumping to a short break before the analyst test, break down that game, get us ready for the next one.